Alright guys, before we get started, I'm just going to give you a quick rundown the tools that I used and the parts that I used for this rear shock replacement on a 2000 Pontiac Trans Am. Should be the same for the F-body cars, Camaro, whatnot. Alright, so let's go over here and get a quick rundown. Alright, here we are. So, just so you have a good visual of what's going on and off, and I'll give you all the tools that I used and that you may need for this job so that you can be prepared when you start it. So I went with the Conies. Okay, now this Coney is part number 8250-1006. It's for the rear. My car's lower a little bit, so these are gonna work perfect. You can see they're just a little bit shorter. I mean, check your application before you just go buying these shocks to make sure they'll work. Either way, install and replacement should be the same. Okay, so now for the removal part, this top nut here is a 15 millimeter. Now I use a deep well socket on this little rigid impact gun. I just stuck it on there and boom, zung it right off. Okay, if for some reason yours does not come off and this middle part starts to turn, you can have you a little crescent wrench like this. You stick it on the flats there. You see the flats of your shock right on the tip. Stick that on, hold that, turn this nut with a 15 millimeter wrench, and you can wind it off that way. It should be okay. It should come right off with a little impact gun. Coming to the bottom of that same shock when you're removing it, this nut, this side you don't have to hold. For some reason yours does turn, you can hold it here. But this nut is a 21 millimeter, and I used a short well. Right, goes right on. Okay, now before you remove this, possibly even the top, but for sure on the bottom, you want to pre-treat that. I used what's called Aero Croil. Okay, works really well. You can use PB Blaster, any of that. To pre-treat this maybe even a day early, but that'll help you get that loose. You're gonna obviously probably need a flashlight. This is the big impact gun I used on the bottom to get that off. Like I said, you don't have to have impact guns. Makes it a lot easier. You can use a ratchet or whatever. Okay, now on the new shock, this nut on the Coney is not the same size. It is a 19 millimeter, so I use a 19 millimeter on that. Put that back on. At the bottom, does not have a locking nut or washer. I don't like that, so I'm going to add a lock washer. I don't have metric. I'm going to use a 5/8. It will be just fine. You can use Loctite. You can just get a different nut if you want. I would suggest having something with a locking feature on here. These are not the same as the one that came off. It is a 22 millimeter. Okay, so I use 22 millimeter. Fits on there. You can use your short well on the back. If you have a deep well in this size, you can use it on this side. I'm just trying to keep it simple. You can use a 22 millimeter wrench also instead of the socket, or you can use a crescent wrench to hold the one side while you tighten the other with the socket, or hold this side and tighten that with the socket. Either way, just trying to keep the tools as simple as possible. Okay, so that's a 22 millimeter. All right, so now the cargo hold downs. Gonna need a Torx bit, T40. Okay, when you get in the video, you'll see what I'm talking about. So that's what I used. You can use just a regular. I have this because again, I stuck it on this impact gun, zipped it out, no problem. Okay, you can just use a regular Torx style if you want. Flathead screwdriver. You may or may not need this. On the right side panel of mine, in the video I'm going to show you the left side. It doesn't use this, but on the right side it has a little quick quarter turn right on top fastener. You just pop it loose, and so you may need that, or you can use a quarter. That works fine too. So like I said, you know, same thing with this. If you need to hold that, you can use a 19 millimeter wrench if you want, and then use that crescent on top here to hold that if it starts to turn on you. Or just try your impact. Same thing over here, but it would be a 15 millimeter, and hold the top if it turns on you. So these are the tools that are needed to do this job. pretty basic really, but if you don't have any of these, make sure you get them first. If you're doing conies, I mean, yours may or may not be different. I don't know if you're doing the same exact shock, so I can't guarantee you on this. I would say if you're using a factory shock, they're going to be these tools for the removal side of it anyway. So some Croyle or PB Blaster. I had a couple, you know, crescent wrenches, a 19 millimeter, may or may not need, but just to have it. 22 millimeter for this, if you want to use that, and also a 15 millimeter wrench if you want to use that. So if you want, just to get technical here, I'll go ahead and lay those out for you. Like I said, I didn't use them, but here they are, just so you have a good general of everything. So these are all possibilities. 22, 15, 19, a couple crescent wrenches, your flathead screwdriver, same in the sockets, 19 millimeter, 15 millimeter, a T40 Torx bit, okay, 21, and a 22 millimeter, okay, flashlight, a couple impacts if you want to use those. Me personally, what I actually really did use is you can just take all these away, and this for the right side you'll need, or a quarter. So I use that to help hold one side of this, and I use these sockets. I did use all of these tools here, impacts, obviously the flashlight. So these can possibly be optional, but you know, if you want to be ready for everything, I would go ahead and have all these tools ready before you start. All right, well, let's get started with the video and show you how all this goes together. Hey guys, what's going on? Today we're changing the rear shocks on it's a 2000 model Pontiac Trans Am. Camaro is going to be the same F-body. So let's give you a quick rundown on what we're going to do here. So we're going to take this panel off, pull this panel out right here. It just pulls out like that. I've already loosened some of this up. Just kind of set that down here. Mine's got these cargo tie downs. That's what we're going to use for that is a Torx T40 bit. Make sure you can see that there. Just go ahead and stick it on there. Loosen it up just like anything else. So you don't have no nut on the back or anything, just a nut plate there. So we get that out of the way. Then your side panels here. Not sure if y'all have ever taken these off. They just pop off. Like I said, I've already got it loose, so you'll just pop it up, and you can see right there. There's just a clip that goes in. You pop it up. Same thing. Come along this edge, and you just sit there and pop those up. And there's where they go in. And there's your clips right there. Sorry, just trying to shoot this so you can see it. And the front, this part here, just kind of slides up, and you can see in there that you got these little kind of just pieces that slide right down in there, in these grooves here. And so that's why you kind of pull up on it. So once that's out of the way, I'm just going to take a blanket. Sorry for all the camera movement. I'm going to lay a blanket right down over my rear quarter here. Kind of give you an idea on, I mean, you don't have to do it this way, it's just up to you. But just kind of giving you a quick rundown. Pull the carpet out of the way a little bit. You can see that there is some speaker wires. You can unplug them if you want. I just kind of going to pull this up, set it right here on this blanket, just like that, out of the way. Take your carpet, it just rolls out of there. It's not glued, anything like that. So this piece here is going to have to be unsecured. Basically the same thing, just kind of give it a tug. Now this goes around the little latch there, as you can see. And just kind of pulled it out. That's your latch for your seat. So you can see it over there. So all you do is, you see your carpet kind of goes back in there. So just work your carpet out around that latch. And I'm doing this one-handed. I mean, it's a lot easier than this. It just seems more difficult because I'm doing it with one hand. Bear with me. So roll your carpet up under your panel, like so. And then once you do that, you're gonna reveal this little foam piece here. Now this little foam piece, all that does is just pop, I mean, it just literally pulls right out, just like that. That's the top of your shock tower. As you can see, the shock right here. That's the top of your shock there. Just making sure you get a look at that. And that would be, let me check my socket size. It's a 15 millimeter. So 15 millimeter socket, deep well. I got it on an impact gun. You could try it. Sometimes it'll hold, as you can see. Hopefully you can see. Mine did hold. So you may have to hold that with a wrench to the top of that. A lot of these shocks, you know, they've got a little flat spot there. I'm gonna get a light so you can kind of see what's going on. And you've got to hold that. But there it is, loosened up. So now that top part's all loose, right? All you gotta do is go underneath, loosen up the bottom. I'm gonna get set up under there, and then I'll see you here in a second. All right, guys, so here we are underneath the car. Here's your shock right here. And as you can see, you got a nut right there. I sprayed that down with a little bit of Aero Croil. We're gonna take that off. I'm using an impact gun. They get a little rusty under here. Sometimes they can be a little bit stubborn coming off. So I suggest pre-spraying it, pre-treating it with a little bit of penetrant of your choice. Could be PB Blaster, or like I said, I'm using Aero Croil. So that's what I like to use, but I have PB Blaster and all that also. So the size of this is going to be a, I believe it's a 21 millimeter. Let me double check. And it is. So 21 millimeter on that. Like I said, I'm using an impact gun. You don't have to. Just for ease of things, I do. But let's see if it'll come loose there. Let me see if I can get the angle. Sorry again. I'm not super good at this whole camera thing, and here we go. So I'm gonna stick around there. Got a good hold on it. We're on lefty loosey, of course. That's it. Drop that off. Shock should just pull out of there. Might have to compress it a little. Drops down just like that. There you go. There's your shock. No problem. Really not too bad of a deal. Of course, the install is just opposite. Just take your new shock. It's going to be probably easier with two people, but if you don't have two people like me, I'm doing it by myself. I would just slide it up in there, get that bottom bolt started in, tighten it up, go from there. Anyway, we'll go ahead. I guess we'll just go ahead and continue the install so you have a better idea. I guess I was gonna just show you the removal, but I'll get a shock out here and we'll go ahead and go over it real quick. All right, stand by, guys. Here we are. We're back. So old shock. It's your old, just stock D carbons. They've been on this since brand new. got pretty wore out. So this here is the new hotness. This is the Coney. And if you want the part number, the one I have here is the 8250-1006. But always check your application first to make sure it's going to work for you. But it's you can see same color, so it looks kind of factory. My car is lowered a little bit, so you can see it's just a little bit shorter. That's why I went with this particular model. It is more robust, a lot better shock, and I like them because they kind of look factory still once installed. It came with hardware. Obviously, when you get it, it's not on here. It was just in a bag, but you're gonna want to go conical washer, bushing, conical, and it has a self-locking nut that goes on top. On the bottom, it's got a metric. I was wondering if that would be a standard or not, but it is still metric. Bolt here, it looks to be grade 8. I don't see the markings on it, but either way, this is what they're wanting you to use as opposed to what's on the factory, which is more of a standard shock mount bolt. So this does not seem to have a locking feature, so I may see how much clearance I have and probably use a lock washer and or Loctite on there, because you do not want this thing coming loose. It's kind of weird that it does not have a locking nut on it. Not super happy with that, but there it is. I'll go ahead and start getting it up in there and give you a better idea. Alright guys, here we go. Back under the car. And I got my new shock. And we're gonna go ahead and just slide this. I am by myself, so it's gonna see how it all goes. Shouldn't be too big of a deal. Now I've taken off just the top part, the nut, upper bushing. We left the washer and the bushing here. You can see that that bushing has a little bit of a recess here, and then it comes up right there. You're gonna want to have that on top. Same with the upper one. It'll be on the bottom because there's a hole in your body of your car up there, and you want that recess to go up inside that to locate this shock. So now we're just gonna right up in here, slide that in. I'm gonna come through here instead. Locate it, kind of compress it into place and up and over this. Okay, now we've got it located. It's where we need to be up there. Slide our bolt through here. Slide her in just like that. Washer on. Not on. Now, like I said, this is not, on mine is not a locking nut. So I've got plenty of room here. So you can see, I'm gonna find me a lock washer, stick on there. Just for security, I don't want this coming loose. Don't tighten this just yet. We'll go up top and see what's going on up there. All right, guys, so we're back up top. There's where our new shock is sticking through. So we're just gonna take, see the rubber bushing. So again, this is the side you want down on this side. You want it going into that recess there of the body. So slide that on. Might be a little stiff. Probably spray a little something on there if you wanted to help it, but I'm not going to. I'm just gonna kind of spin it on. That should be plenty to get this washer on. You can see it's conical, obviously. It's gonna go like this, down over that rubber. This nut, which is odd because it is self-locking. I mean, it makes sense, right? The bottom should be too. I don't know why it's not. Tony should probably work on that. I added a lock washer down there. So now that's on. So what we're gonna do is go ahead and tighten this up. Once that's tight, I'm gonna go ahead and tighten the lower. Now, my car is on these ramps, okay? It's not in the air, so weight is on the suspension. if you jack this up and you have it on jacks, you're going to want to lower it first before you tighten up your shocks. Any suspension parts, you don't want the suspension hanging and unloaded when you tighten them down, because then whenever you lower the car and put a load on it, it's going to put it in a little bit of a bind. You don't want that. So if you do have it in the air, it's on jack stands, get everything in just like this. Lower the car either on ramps like I have, or put jack stands under the axle so that the weight is on the suspension itself. It's on the axle. And then just go ahead and tighten up the lower, tighten up the upper, and rebutton all this stuff back up, which is just, you know, rolling your carpet back, sliding him back into place around your seat lock, and clipping this panel back in. And the reason I didn't unplug my speaker wires, just I know everybody's gonna be like, why don't you just unplug them? Mine's spliced in right here. It doesn't have a plug. So yeah, I could probably, you can't really see it. It's taped all the way back into the splices, but I could cut those wires, but I'm just not going to. That's why I set this up here. If you just have the regular plugs like this, probably easier just plug it and pull that panel out of the way. Make sure you don't forget your phone piece, little cover, and then after you get that all down, stick that on if you have it. Pop this in. You can see it just literally just pops right into this here, and same thing on this side. And that's it. You'll just come to the other side over here, same exact thing. Pull that panel out, pull that a little bit loose, but you can see how that goes around it. And then roll your carpet back, same procedure. All right, guys, that's it. You see, it's really not too bad of a job. Now, if you live up north where you deal with a lot of salt and everything all the time, you may have a little bit more corrosion and rust, so make sure you hose those down, maybe even a day early, some of those bolts with PB Blast or Aero Coil, whatever you like to use. And if you have an impact gun, it definitely makes the job easier. So hopefully this video has helped some of you out, gave you an idea on the tools you may need. And just in case you didn't have those tools before you start the job, you can go out and make sure you have them in hand and ready to go, and make your job just easy and quick and smooth. Anyway, like and subscribe if you do like the video, and hopefully we can get some more content out there for you and continue to help, you know, a few people out. All right, and thanks for watching. See you next time.